Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll just wait another minute as people are trickling in. Thank you for joining. There's about 100 over people who have registered for this event. That's quite overwhelming, personally for me. So we'll just wait and we'll start in a minute. Just to let you all know that this session is being recorded and we will be emailing to all registrants, and it can be viewed from our website and YouTube. Feel free to share with many people as possible. And if you try that QR code, it will help you get access to a registration of a complimentary net zero assessment. Okay, I think it's already 11:01. I'll be ready to start. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar, the why, what, when, and how of net zero emission in energy. My name is Edwin Rogers. I'm the Corporate Sales Manager of Energy Action, taking care of many of our large corporate accounts. I've been living it in Energy Action since July 2019. I'm here in Parramatta, which is the land of the Darug people. In the spirit of reconciliation, Energy Action acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. About Energy Action. Excuse me. Energy Action is the trusted and independent energy partner for over 7,000 Australian businesses. We started in Sydney over 20 years ago, and we are a national team with international partnerships for our global customers. We combine our years of experience with our smart technology and data-led insights to make our clients' energy cheaper, easier, and cleaner. To help customers in their net zero journey, we provide a cost-effective roadmap for customers to achieve their net zero target at the lowest cost. What is net zero? Before that, let's review the ecology of the Earth. The Earth breathes. During spring, carbon emission in the atmosphere decreases due to the absorption of carbon dioxide by new growth. During autumn, the leaves fall from trees and carbon emissions increases as they decay. The system was in balance until the Industrial Revolution, which introduced more carbon that can be absorbed. The Industrial Revolution was the transition to new manufacturing processes in the UK, continental Europe, and the US that occurred during the period from around 1760 to about 1840. This transition included going from hand production methods to machines, new chemical manufacturing, and iron production processes. The increased use of steam, coal, and water power, the development of machine tools, and the rise of mechanized factory system. Output greatly increased. As a result, was an unprecedented rise in population and in the rate of population growth. Since then, carbon emissions are produced every day through driving cars, purchasing electricity produced from coal or gas, and generating waste. This has led to a buildup of carbon emission in our atmosphere, causing an increase in global temperature known as global warming or climate change. Hence, we need to achieve a balance between emissions produced and emissions taken out of the atmosphere. The journey towards achieving net zero involves measuring how much carbon your business is using and producing and reducing energy consumption as much as possible. Net zero refers to a state in which the greenhouse gases going into the atmosphere are balanced by the removal out of the atmosphere. The term net zero is important because for carbon dioxide at least, this is the state at which global warming stops. The net in net zero is important as well because it will be very difficult to reduce all emissions to zero on the time scale needed, as well as deep and widespread cuts in emissions. We will likely need to scale up removals. In order for net zero to be effective, it must be permanent. Permanence means that removed greenhouse gas does not return into the atmosphere over time, for example, through destruction of forests or improper carbon storage. Now let's address the framework which will be the basis of our net zero journey. It began in Paris on 12 December 2015, hence it's called the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement is a legally binding international treaty on climate change. It was adopted by 196 parties at the 21st Convention of the Conference of Parties, hence known as COP21, delivered to the 1992 United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, known as UNFCCC, and the 11th session of Meeting of Parties, known as CMP, to the 1997 Kyoto Protocol. The conference negotiated the Paris Agreement, a global agreement on the reduction of climate change, the text of which represented a consensus of representatives of the 196 attending parties. The agreement was due to enter into force when joined by at least 55 countries, which together represented at least 55% of global greenhouse gas emissions, a target reached on 4th November 2016. On 22nd April 2016, which is on Earth Day, 174 countries signed the agreement in New York and began adopting it in their own legal system through ratification, acceptance, approval, or accession. Net zero imperatives. The Paris Agreement goal, and through IPCC, is to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial levels of 1840. The Albanese government had a more aggressive goal to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 43% below 2005 levels by 2030, which is a 15% increase on Australia's previous 2030 target. It will reaffirm Australia's commitment to net zero emission by 2050. COP27 session last month in Egypt approved the tax provision to set up a loss and damage fund to help developing countries bear the immediate costs of climate fuel events such as storms and floods. On mitigation, parties agreed that limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius requires rapid, deep, and sustained reductions in global greenhouse gas emissions, reducing them by 43% by 2030 relative to the 2019 level. However, while this was promising, a report from the Independent Climate Action Tracker Group calculated that the world is heading to a 2.4 degrees Celsius of warming by end of the century. Hence, a compelling reason for us to do our part in reducing emission. Impact to Australia. Australia's climate has warmed up by an average of 1.47 plus minus 0.24 degrees Celsius since the national record began in 1910. Sea surface temperatures have increased by an average of 1.05 degrees Celsius since 1900. This has led to an increase in the frequency of extreme heat events over land and sea. Sea levels are rising around Australia, including more frequent extremes that are increasing the risk of inundation and damage to coastal infrastructure and communities. There has been an increase in extreme fire weather and a longer fire season across large parts of the country since the 1950s. Rainfall and stream flow have increased across parts of northern Australia since the 1970s. Oceans around Australia are acidifying and have warmed by more than 1 degree Celsius since 1900, contributing to longer and more frequent marine heat waves. Snow depth, snow cover, and number of snow days have decreased in alpine regions since the late 1950s. All Australians are bearing the costs, with insurance premium and food prices on the rise, and more than $1.5 billion of essential infrastructure needing repair in New South Wales alone. In fact, the average cost per household of extreme weather disasters increased by 73% from the 10-year average to $1,532 in 2021 to 2022. Why is net zero important to your business and our future? By overcoming the many challenges of being net zero, the benefits can be game-changing. Profitability, swapping your energy to renewable sources may help reduce your utility bills as a business. This can be achieved through installing solar panels and investing in energy-saving retrofits of your premises. A lot of what needs doing is about reducing waste, including energy, materials, and water. More efficient use of resources means less cost to your business operations and hence the profitability. Becoming more competitive. Businesses which can demonstrate an authentic commitment and progress towards net zero are more attractive to climate-conscious customers and can grow sales at the expense of their competitors. Public sector tendering competitions are increasingly setting business commitment to net zero as a minimum requirement to be considered for contracts. Becoming net zero will improve business brand value, reputation, and expansion. Building business resilience. Climate change might appear to have greater impacts in other parts of the world, but businesses here will feel those effects. Extreme short weather and longer-term climate patterns can disrupt your supply chain. Becoming a net zero business can go a long way to protecting against economic, climate, and regulatory shocks now and in the future. Attracting investment and innovation. Having a strong business strategy for the future with sustainability, both for business viability and the environment at the center, is important for investors. Net zero plans are likely to become an essential element when making investment decisions to innovate. It will satisfy the demands of stakeholders, investors, and funders. People and talent. Net zero makes it more attractive to progressive-minded job seekers, especially the youngest candidates just out of the university, and builds expertise. Late adopters will have a smaller pool of talent to choose from. Moreover, companies focusing on net zero transformation are more likely to recruit and retain talent as employees feel they are part of a journey with a positive societal impact. Lastly, our generations are relying on us to help them live a better life. We now explore several pathways to net zero for energy. Firstly, here is Energy Action's proven methodology of net zero roadmap, which we have successfully used for many customers across Australia. Step 1 is a baseline development to measure what will be managed. If you can't measure, you can't measure it. We will determine customer scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. Scope 1 is a direct emission from on-site activities such as gas and fuel combustion for production, company vehicle, and fugitive emissions. For example, a cab service company will have to account for its fuel in Scope 1. Fugitive emissions are leaks from greenhouse gases, example, refrigeration and air conditioning units. Scope 2 is indirect emission from grid supplied electricity, which is basically purchased electricity. Scope 3 is the indirect emissions which result from your activity, such as purchased goods and services, waste disposal, use of sold products. One quick way to resolve Scope 3 is to ensure that your supply chain improves its Scope 1 and 2. Food for thought. Step 2 consists of determining the target. Many companies use a baseline year such as 2005 and reduce to, for example, 43% by 2030 and then net zero by 2050. Step 3. Based on the measurement and target, we will use several solutions to best develop a financially sound investment that will help customers reach their target at the least cost. Each investment will be appraised according to a financial criteria such as net present value, internal rate of return, or return on investment, or even payback. Energy action will generally take between 6 to 8 weeks to complete steps 1 and 3. This is highly appreciated by many of our customers as the quality and speed of delivery keeps the subject relevant to the key decision makers. After presenting the report and deliberating with the key decision makers, then the strategies are implemented over the period of time and measured and validated till the goals are achieved and emissions reduced, and then celebrating its success. Pathways to net zero for energy. Here are a few pathways to net zero appraised according to its complexity, cost, and impact. Power purchase agreement, simply put, is an agreement between an independent power generator and a purchaser for the sale and supply of renewable energy, be it wind or solar or others. The challenge with this kind of corporate PPA is the complexity of the contract, responsibilities of the approvals, authorization, and arranging for firming with a retailer. Solar on your rooftop and premises is the most viable solution available for customers, especially under prevailing high electricity prices. This is an excellent strategy that not only helps with emission reduction, but also costs. With solar on site, customers need not pay for the supply charges via the electricity grid, which can be quite substantial. The solar market is favorable to customers now, as there are many players in the market who will bid for your opportunities. Please call us, as we have a successful reverse auction procurement strategy that will further improve your solar procurement costs. Procurement of solar can be via outright purchase through capital expenses. This means the customer pays upfront for the entire solar installation. A very popular scheme that will benefit your cash flow in solar procurement is via operating expenses, also known as the behind-the-meter power purchase agreement. The advantage of this OPEX methodology is that customers pay for energy generated by the installed solar over a period of time. Another advantage is that customers need not allocate additional costs for maintenance or replacement or even obsolescence of the solar component over the tenure of agreement. LGCs are large-scale generation certificates. In a simple way, it is a form of currency for buying and selling renewable energy. LGCs are created as part, excuse me, LGCs are created as part of federal government's renewable energy target. It is a push to reduce emissions in the electricity sector and promote renewable energy generation. LGCs are traded in blocks of 5,000 certificates and can be used as a source of income when traded in the market. LGCs management is an effective way to have high impact in emission reduction. There are other certificates which have the same impact but different functions, such as the Energy Saving Certificates, ESCs, for New South Wales only, Victorian Energy Efficiency Certificates, known as VECs, which is only applicable for Victoria, Australian Carbon Credit Units, ACCUs, Small-Scale Technologies Certificates, known as STCs, which are likely an upfront subsidy for renewable energy systems that are under 100 kilowatts. Green Power is a government-managed program that lets individuals and businesses support renewable energy generation. When you buy green power from your electricity retailer, you're paying for renewable energy that meets strict criteria. The purchase of green power is considered to be equivalent to the direct use of renewable energy. This means you can claim the emissions reduction associated to this action. You can also use purchased green power towards your renewable energy claim. Lastly, REsa, which is Energy Action's favorite for large business. Renewable Energy Supply Agreement. Energy Action's REsa is an ideal product for users over 10 gigawatt hour per annum to obtain all the goodness of the traditional corporate PPA minus its perils. It provides a shorter term commitment between 2 to 7 years, which is more viable for many companies. Customers will get the benefit of a corporate power purchase agreement, such as fixed price, fixed term, known source, with the simplicity of a standard electricity supply agreement with a guarantee on renewable energy certificates sourced from known specific generation assets. Customers will secure a firm energy contract from an identifiable renewable asset. Hence, the CEO is able to take a photograph with his or her hard hat and a shovel to further enhance his or her personal image and its corporate. How good is that? We first introduced it to a large sports complex in Victoria who wanted to achieve net zero. Energy Action conducted a tender exercise that attracted 8 bidders last year. The timing of procurement was simply perfect, where this premier sports icon facility secured a 100% renewable energy supply agreement, thus going green, and over and above saved nearly $250,000 in energy bill simply due to the competitive bid conducted by Energy Action. This product by Energy Action secures for a customer a high-quality renewable energy agreement without the need of expensive costs and risk that has burdened the traditional PPA. Another example, here is a progressive council that chose REsa as a solution to achieve their interim net zero goal of using renewable energy with a net zero by 2025. What an ambition. Energy Action attracted 5 compliant bidders from the small retail market to compete for their 100 plus small electricity accounts. We also ran a green auction for the large site procurement to purchase 100% renewable energy direct from an identifiable source. Finally, the winner was a retailer sourcing renewable energy from the Collector Wind Farm in Cullerin, New South Wales. It resulted to Byron Bay Council reaching their net zero goal with an additional 19% reduction in energy costs and 100% green power. In conclusion, we invite customers to engage with the solutions that are readily available in the market to help you achieve your net zero goal in energy. Firstly, the baseline and measurement is imperative. If you can't measure it, you can't change it, neither can you manage it. Because the solutions are here today, we urge businesses to invest in our children's future today itself. We have presented the reasons behind the net zero drive, the impact to Australia, and its importance to our future. However, due to time constraint, we did not cover the various framework for net zero such as RE100, Science-Based Target Initiative, and other forms of certifications. Please reach out to us if you need more information on these frameworks and certifications. It is important to establish your benchmark carbon emission and reduce it through simple actions like taking greater control over your energy usage, ensuring it is only being used when and where is needed, and upgrading to more energy efficient equipment in offices and factories. Electricity can be obtained from renewable sources such as solar, wind, and hydro, which can now be generated on-site or purchased through the electricity grid. Any remaining emissions can be cancelled out by purchasing carbon offsets to fund renewable projects. For example, tree planting, native reforestation, and renewable energy projects. As an organization, Energy Action and its people are passionate about helping customers achieve their net zero goal in the most cost-effective way. Energy Action partners with many businesses to transition them towards a net zero future. With that, we conclude our presentation. But before we conclude, as a thank you to our attendees, please take advantage by scanning this exclusive QR code on the screen for the remainder of the session for a complimentary net zero assessment. So we ask you to get your phones out to scan this. Meanwhile, I'm going to invite you to use the icon below here to ask a few questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer if I can.
Maybe more.
Thank you, John, for that question. The question is, how is the energy, the renewable energy priced in the market? Now, generally, the rule of thumb is that the renewable energy cost is about the cost of your black energy plus the certificates. However, if you go into a tender exercise, that can be really narrowed to make it more competitive to help customers procure renewable energy at a lower cost, as close as possible to the black energy. There's another question here. What is the complexity of power purchase, the corporate PPA to attain net zero? The complexity is not about achieving net zero. The complexity is the contract and the entering of the agreement into PPA itself. Firstly, there is the connection issue. You need to, there is a legally binding contract between the renewable energy asset service developer and the customer, which talks about multiple complexity in terms of how the contract is structured, the tenure, the escalation, and what happens if the connection is not correct, and so on. Secondly, the customer will also have to engage a retailer to supply energy when the clouds are blocking the sun or the wind is down. So which means the complexity is added by having two contracts. Whereas the Renewable Energy Supply Agreement, the REsa, which we have developed, combines all of it like as if you're just purchasing your standard electricity supply agreement from one company, and yet it is going to be renewable. So that's where I mentioned that the Renewable Energy Supply Agreement has got all the goodness of the standard corporate PPA minus the perils of PPA and also the cost associated to the PPA. So which means in the corporate PPA, you don't have to have expensive legal advisors and financiers to talk about and negotiate the contract with the developer of the wind farm or solar farm. With the corporate, the renewable energy supply is as good as the standard energy contract which you have available in the market. Thank you. Sebastian is asking, what is the difference between 100% green energy and 100% renewable energy? Good question. All right. Okay, let me attempt this. Green energy is sourced like what I mentioned earlier. Let me just go back to the slide. Yep. So in terms of renewable energy supply, renewable energy and green energy in a way can be about the same. Green energy is general green energy purchased from an unknown source. It's just a green energy which is supplied by multiple suppliers into the grid. Whereas in renewable energy, which is also the same as green energy, in terms of the products which we have displayed here in this slide, it's generally a green energy supplied from a renewable energy asset. So that's a difference. In essence, they are both really the same. But what we mentioned earlier here is the green power. Green power is a general green power supplied through the grid by multiple companies that are selling green power to the grid. Whereas the renewable energy backed supply agreement is really the renewable energy from a known asset. Thank you, Sebastian, for the question. I will continue to show the yep. Okay. Okay, so just to give back a little bit of time, thank you. I'm really grateful that all of you all have attended. There is about 100 over people who have registered. For those of you who have missed out on this, please feel free to share, log into our website. You'll all be getting a link so that you can review the slides, and we will be sending it by email. The marketing team will be sending it in email. And on behalf of Energy Action, we wish you the very best in your net zero journey and wishing all of you in advance a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. Have a safe holiday. Thank you.